how can one turn on a dime, make that pivot, and turn that negative energy into something positive?
Well, this is where the pain becomes extremely useful because it is motivating. I like to talk about polarities. It's very hard to change from neutral. But the more pain there is, it's like a slingshot, the more energy and tension you create to light up your neurology so that we can use neuroplasticity and change your brain and your response to the trigger. But it really helps to have that pain and that motivation for change, to create something better.
Hi, I'm Glennis Woods Mullins, and I love to help women to vibe, to be more vibrant, intuitive, beautiful, and empowered in midlife. So come on, let's vibe. You know, it's really interesting because these days there's so much supposedly that can help you with manifesting the life of your dreams. I mean, you can even not just work for someone, but create your own business online, all these different things that you can do. But, you know, occasionally, or maybe more times we want to admit, what gets in the way of us really being successful in that is the things that we're saying to ourselves. Believe it or not, that talk, that self-talk, that negative self-talk can be such a great barrier. And that's why I'm so excited today to have with us Morgana Rae. Morgana Rae does something very special. She's a 20-time first #1 international bestseller. She's the author of Financial Alchemy and for 12 months of Magic and Manifestation. She has been a 7-figure spiritual life and business coach for over 30 years. And Morgan's fans call her the money goddess because of the many documented stories of clients making unexpected income. So I definitely want to hear about that for sure. And she has guided tens of thousands of entrepreneurs, artists, healers, and humanitarians to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money. So thank you so much, Morgana, for being here. It's wonderful to have you here today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, what you do is such a blessing and so needed. And, you know, just before we got on the podcast, I was kind of listening a little bit to the news. Well, actually, it's not something I normally do, but I was in a room where my husband was playing the news. He's one of those guys, you walk into a room, if there is a way to hear the news, it's on, okay? When I walk into my sanctuary office, I don't have anything like that on. So I was running around getting, you know, ready, and I was overhearing stuff. And then all of a sudden, all I could hear was get out of this room because it was just so negative. So the first question I want to ask you, in a world that is right now fairly negative, how do you maintain your optimism? And how do you help others attain theirs?
Oh, I love that you're asking that because full confession, I'm like your husband. I'm a doom scroller. I want to know what's going on. I'm an activist. I'm heavy into politics. I'm obsessed with all that stuff. And for me, my path to optimism is personally a balance of engaging because I have this body for a very limited time and I want to do as much good as I can. And I do feel pain and I feel anxiety and I feel the pains and sufferings of others. I'm very, very empathic. That's a huge part of why I'm a coach because I'm so affected by the pain of others. And what I do is I use it. So I use it in what I call alchemy. Like I created my own after attaining a dozen certifications in different coaching programs and hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming and on and on and on. I developed my own modality that I call financial alchemy, but it's really, it's life alchemy. And I've applied it to money and I've applied it to love and I've applied it to health issues and it works across the board. And what it is a way to use let in human experience, because that's part of what we're here for, is to have experience and to transmute it and evolve all of us. So to take let in human experience that makes the world feel unsafe, unkind, makes us feel unwanted. And I think all of those experiences are just part of being a human being over the course of your lifetime. So we take your victim experiences and these scary things that we experience in life, and we make it the fuel for transformation. And that's the process of transmuting, using it. If these things have happened, then it would be such a waste to not use them for your empowerment and exaltation and the best of
You know
everybody.
what? I'm glad you mentioned that because just last week, I decided that I was going to tell a different story when it came to my mother's death and what a shock it was. It was 35 years ago, but it was an extreme shock. But the other side of that horrible story of how she was hit by a fire truck on her way to work, she had the green. It was an accident. It was an epitome of an accident. But I decided after 35 years of this, I'm going to tell a different story. I'm going to take the energy of the grief and the negativity that comes with telling that story and turn it around to how that changed my life ultimately to the good. Because, Morgana, I would not be speaking to you now if it had not been for that. I developed an anxiety disorder and took some time off from corporate America to try to get well. And after a year sabbatical, I realized, you know what? I need more time. I'm not coming back. I'm going to get well. And that's when I discovered the mind, body, spirit movement and holistic wellness and all the other things that come with it. So I've decided to take that energy and turn it into something else. I'm going to be telling that story and kind of picking apart how I got there because you're right. Reversing the energy into something positive. The question is, though, because it took me years to figure this out, how can one do that? How can one turn on a dime, make that pivot, and turn that negative energy into something positive?
Well, this is where the pain becomes extremely useful because it is motivating. I like to talk about polarities. It's very hard to change from neutral. But the more pain there is, it's like a slingshot, the more energy and tension you create to light up your neurology so that we can use neuroplasticity and change your brain and your response to the trigger. But it really helps to have that pain and that motivation for change, to create something better. And another really important piece is we never ever take anything away without replacing it with something better. So if you have a negative pattern, every negative pattern has served you kindly at some point in your life, or it would not be there. But just as I had my favorite pair of red patent leather Mary Jane shoes when I was 5 years old, those were my Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz shoes when I was 5 years old. I am 57 now. I cannot fit into those shoes. So patterns that protected me and kept me alive and served me very well at an earlier time in my life has been outgrown. These patterns outstay their welcome and they can be toxic and dangerous to us. So I like to Marie Kondo them with love. Mwah, thank you for your service. But before we remove anything, whether it's grief, and my mother died 5 months ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And it's a different situation. She had rejected me many decades before, so I don't get to grieve her the way I got to grieve my father.
Mm-hmm.
But all of it, I just see everything as just a portal to our next level of evolution. And I'm learning things from the shock of finding out that while she was alive, I still had a lot of love for her, and I was still pretty naive about what was going on there. So it's another portal to growth. And I love the perspective that there's nothing anyone can do to you that you cannot use for your own empowerment and your own experience of self and divine love as you
I
experience.
love the analogy of the slingshot. Because when you think about it, the more powerful the pull back is, the stepping back, the painfulness of pulling it all the way back and still making sure that that thing that you're going to hurl is in position and all of that. And the bigger the thing is, the harder it is to pull it back. But when you let it go, the release is amazing. And the next thing I see is that breakthrough. I was just talking to my daughter about that today, about the fact that the challenges that we go through is nothing but a setup for an ultimate breakthrough on the other side.
And especially when it's really big, it's really powerful. That's when my client Leslie made $1.2 million within hours of our coaching session. That's the
Oh,
fastest of that magnitude, but I've had, 1.6 over a few weeks. I've had a lot of really, really big manifestations. I have this belief, and I just heard from a client of mine who hired me when she was 72, and she was going blind and losing her balance because she was exposed to mold and she had tremors, and she wanted to slay her mold monster the way we had slayed her money monster years before. And this was 2 years ago. I just got a text from her yesterday for Easter, and she's telling me that, well, last time I spoke to her, she had fallen in love, and she and her partner were just traveling the country, and now she's picked up badminton. And she's 74 years old, and she's active, and she's living her dreams because having that kind of big monster can really open things up. And we did that with money, and we did that with health, and we did that with love. I wanted to always be safe. So I talk about uncovering a monster because I believe from my experience, I've been coaching 30 years now, this June. And what I've observed is change happens at the speed of safety.
hmm.
If you've been doing everything that you're supposed to do to heal from your mother's death, or
Mhm.
to make money, or to build your career, or find your soulmate, or heal from some ailment, and you're doing everything that all the experts are telling you to do, and you're taking the classes and reading the books and taking the actions, and you are not seeing results, and it doesn't make sense. It has been my observation that it's very, very likely that you are unconsciously protecting yourself from what you want. And
Hmm.
you are not a loser, and you are not mistaken. There's actually something very precious that needs protection. And this thing that you're pursuing, whether it's money or love, carries with it things that have hurt you and threatened you in the past. So what we need to do first and foremost for change to happen is make what you want safe. And we do that by uncovering what about it isn't safe.
Hmm.
And when we're talking about quick manifestation and like how big the thing in the slingshot is, I want it to be really, really big because that's what gets the dramatic results. And also, I want to say that all those years that you have spent trying to build your career or trying to heal that illness or trying to find your soulmate is never, ever wasted. All that energy is being planted, the seeds are being planted, but as long as you have this protective wall up, it's like all the energy is building behind the wall, which means when it is safe to bring the wall down, it is not unusual at all for really big results to come in really fast, bigger than you expected, faster than you expected. I think you know because we spoke earlier. I
Yes.
did the same process on my relationship with love, and I slayed my love monster in 2012. I was 45, never married, not for lack of trying, since I chased Brian Patterson under the piano at his 5th birthday, and he was the older man. So 40 years later, I'm still looking, still unmarried. I slayed my love monster. I uncovered all the things, all the ways love had hurt me over my life,
Hmm.
including my mom, which I'd mentioned.
Mhm.
And once I got rid of the love monster and made love safe, I met 2 months later the man who is now my husband. And not only is he my husband, and the funny thing is on our second date, he told me he didn't believe in marriage. But 18 months later, he proposed marriage, and not just marriage, he proposed that we get married 100 times in 100 countries. So
Wow.
we are 26 weddings deep into getting married 100 times. And that's like all that planting. It's like those prayers were heard. They just came later than I expected and all at once.
You know, you said something that I think is really amazing that women need to think about, especially women in midlife. They've had quite a few experiences and accumulation of experiences. And within that is accumulation of trauma. And trauma isn't just something that violently happens to you. It can be anything that caused you angst, the kind of angst that you carry with you to the next angst and the next and the next. And next thing you know, you have that huge, what you kind of said was like a wall, this block. And so it
Hmm.
makes so much sense why midlife women want to really take a look at some of these things. If they really want to have that ultimate success of their lives that they've been looking for, it's about removing that blockage. So when you're talking with women and let's say you've identified, well, first of all, let's talk about that. How does one identify the blocks or
Oh,
identify all that trauma, the baggage, the angst, how they identify it?
I'm going to use money as an example because that's what I'm known for the most. And I find it's a very elegant doorway into the pain of being alive. It's also the number one excuse we give for what we can't have, do, or be. So when somebody comes to me and we're going to use money as the bad guy, as the obstacle, but again, it can be health, it can be love, it can be anything. But we're going to say money. Money scarcity is what is waking you up in the middle of the night or breaking your relationships or keeping you from what you want to do. I never, ever, ever find what I call the monster, the money monster, in the money story itself. It is what money represents, which are really, I think, the universal vulnerabilities of being a human being, whether you have no money or you're a billionaire, because I've coached all the extremes. So the root cause of any monster, money, love, health, whatever, is going to be love. Am I lovable? So I want to make this clear. The root cause of your money monster is not money. It's going to go back to love, anything that has ever made you feel unlovable. It's going to go to worth, anything that has ever made you feel unvalued or unworthy. It's going to go to safety, anything that has ever made you feel unsafe, made the world feel unsafe, like accidents, illnesses, eating disorder, throw that in. Violence, things that don't look related to money because money represents love, worth, and safety. And if I'm coaching somebody on health, I'm going to bring in the love pain. And if I coach somebody on love, well, that tends to be pretty direct, but I'll bring in anything that has made the world or their life experience feel unloving, unsafe, or they were not wanted. And we gently dig through whatever has energy and whatever has pain. And it's like you're going to build a court case of your victimhood for the court of the universe of why your life is not safe and loving and valuing right now. We're building a case of negativity because that's the slingshot. We're building the energy for change. We're lighting up your neurology. I want you to feel it, but not so much that you re-traumatize yourself. I promise you that's not necessary. But any bad thing that has ever happened to you that occurs to you in this moment, I want you to use it. You've already paid the price of admission. So I want you to milk it for every ounce of transformation and power fuel that you can get in this moment. And then when you have what I call a critical mass of ick, like this sucks, no wonder this sucks, I want you to take a flying leap of imagination and just imagine that there is some entity, some human being, not a person currently in your life, not your parents, not you. It can be an imaginary person. It can be an historic or a mythological person. But imagine that there is this person who has done all of it to you, all of the bad stuff to you for the sake of causing you pain. And that's step number 2 is you personify the pain. And we're going to call that your relationship with money. And when you feel and you look at all that pain, it's like, well, no wonder there's drama. And then step 3 is you make a choice. And this is really powerful for women. You make a choice of what gets to exist in your life experience now. Is it going to be you or is it the monster? Because only one of you gets to survive. And when you choose yourself and you say no to the monster and everything it represents, every injustice in the world, every injustice and hurt to your soft self, you rise up like a warrior goddess and you extinguish it. You annihilate it. It does not get to exist. And when it's gone, we have a clean slate. You can feel the absence and it'll feel weird and unlike anything you've ever felt before because you've lived with this pain monster your whole life. And that's when we have a new relationship. We invite in a new relationship with life. And you can call this new relationship life, or you can call this money, or you can call it love, or you can call it vitality, whatever you like. I very often call it the money honey, because money is that area of life in my life that needed my love and healing the most. But it's going to be another person, but this time the person is going to be nothing but love. When you destroy the monster, all that remains is love. And now this is a relationship with life that loves you and loves you more than anybody in the world and chooses you and values you and wants to be with you. And if you want to save the world, this life wants to partner with you to save the world and sees how incredible and creative and magical and lovable you are. And this, again, I call it the money honey, but you can call it whatever you want. What I like about one little pause, I have found, because I've been doing this many, many years, since March of 2003, your money honey is your equal, not your superior. It's not God. It's not Oprah. It's not Gandhi. It's your partner. You have the power to break your partner's heart. You are equals. You have the body, so you're in fact even more powerful. But now you have this partnership who loves you. That's step number 4. Step number 5 is you have a conversation. What if money loved you more than anybody in the world and wanted to be with you in a big way, or health or love? How do you let that in when you've been protecting yourself all this time? Well, now I would invite you to ask this adorable, loving person who wants to be with you, how? How do I let you in? What do you need from me to allow you to be with me the way you want? And you're going to get some really interesting information from that.
Asking those questions is so important. I do an exercise in the morning that's very similar. I say, God, what is it that you want me to know today? It's very similar to that. And something else that you said I thought was very interesting. It was about choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes as women, we get into this thing of thinking that we don't have a choice. We choose to say we don't have a choice. But it's all about choice. And it sounds like with your philosophy that that's a big component is getting to that point of knowing that you have a choice and making a choice that's going to save you rather than just hurt you. I feel that so many women just kind of coexist with their hurt instead of making a choice to do something about it.
When we are in the grips of a relationship with a monster, by definition, we feel powerless.
Mm.
And that's that's a sign that you have a monster. When you destroy the monster and you choose yourself instead, you change yourself very powerfully in that moment. When you can speak to your money honey, health honey, love honey, whatever life honey, whatever God honey, whatever you want to call it, it's like being able to see the world without your fears, without your neuroses, see the world as it really is. And see yourself as you really are, far more creative and resourceful and valuable than you may have given yourself credit for 5 minutes ago. And one of the things we're doing, because I love to get all sciencey. I had a traumatic brain injury when I was 16, so I've been obsessed with brain science ever since then. What we're doing when we slay the monster and now we have this new love relationship with life is we are relaxing the frightened limbic reptile reactive brain, which is the higher the emotion, the lower our intelligence. But when we can relax it, calm it, then our frontal lobe, which is our genius zone, wakes up and our best selves and our best answers come to us. And there's one last piece. It's not enough to just have a cute money honey. But now we need to take action. Otherwise, it's all just kind of floating in the ethers. Action is magical. You want to embody that you are committed to a new relationship. And what action that is just when you've slayed the monster, now you have this beautiful person and you want to take an action. One concrete, measurable action doesn't even have to be a big one, but it will let you know that you are now in a new relationship with life. And I would just say, whatever thought or action just bubbled up quietly, quickly in the back of your mind, throw that out to this partner and see the response. Mm-hmm. Don't like shine a interrogation light on your intuition because that doesn't work. But just lightly toss out ideas and see what lights up your new honey, your new imaginary partner with joy. And then do that, commit to it, and then actually do it. And that is when the really crazy money manifestation, love manifestation, I'm the queen of coincidence. That's when those things happen.
I'm glad you mentioned that exact word, money manifestation, because I know everyone who's listening to this is wanting to know, well, what is the secret? What is the secret for money manifestation?
Well, slaying the monster and changing your relationship with money has, in my experience, I mentioned Leslie Perry made 13 million in the following 3 years. And she started at zero and she was 55. And 10 years later, she's getting married this year at 65. And I mentioned the client, I'm not going to say her name because I haven't received permission, but she's 74, manifested love, manifested health, manifested money. There's no age limit on it. Yes, my specialty is money manifestation. I've been on coast to coast radio a bunch of times and, TV and all that kind of stuff. Because money, again, it gets our attention the fastest. So I like to work with that. And also the manifestation numbers are great for my marketing. Mm-hmm. I've raced and it's fun. But what I really want to make clear is the money manifestation. I've got so many testimonials to build credibility for this, but it's like the frosting. Your relationship with life, your self-love, your life satisfaction, that's the full course. That's the dessert. And the money stuff it's funny when my clients tell me that they made the money, it's usually like the last 5 minutes of our session. Oh, by the way, it's a nice little add-on, but the feast is your life. What I would recommend to anybody listening, the place to get started is simply go to my website at morganarae.com. And I know that will be in the show notes. Go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble or Walmart or anything, but just go online and you will find my book, Financial Alchemy, 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. In fact, if you go to my website and click on the link there to get the book, and then come back to the book page and enter your name, email, and receipt number, you will get a bonus 90-minute secret Q&A call that I did that nobody who just went directly to Amazon and didn't listen to this call with Linus will know about. Because I can teach the process, and I do in depth. I just upgraded the book last year for the 10-year anniversary. And I added audios and videos to make it work even better. But nothing is better than the questions you bring. That's what lights me up. The most exciting thing about human beings is you are infinitely resourceful at coming up with new and unexpected obstacles that I've never encountered before. And so every time you come up with something new, it just makes it work better for everybody.
I love that. And I love the idea of folks, first of all, she's right. In the show notes leads you directly to her website and also her Amazon site too. But I say go to the website because then you get the secret sauce, more secret sauce of her wonderful book. It's interesting because I've read a lot of different manifestation books. I've taken maybe one or two manifestation courses, but there's something that you said that I have not heard anyone else say before. And that has to do with the monster and the energy behind that monster and the negative energy that it takes to think about the thing that's upsetting you and all of that stuff. Over the years, it gets so prohibitive in terms of you being able to move forward without you even realizing it. When, like, for instance, when I decided to change my story that I told about my mother's death and how it impacted me, it's amazing how it impacted my business. And also, a weight had been lifted that I didn't even know I was still carrying. I knew I was still grieving my mom, still missing her, but I didn't realize that it was physically like a weight that I was carrying. I always say, like, when I go through these periods of getting back in shape to dance, sometimes, I stop dancing for a while, I eat what I want. And, that's really bad because then my ankles get a little weak. So I have to build my ankles back up, lose the weight, and then get back in shape. Well, the thing about it is really that if I would just get rid of the weight and, not do the eating and everything else, I wouldn't have to build up my ankles. But because I'm carrying that extra stuff, my ankles are working harder. So then when I put on top of it, okay, now I want you to do a triple pirouette. They're like, no, because you got all this extra weight. And to me, it's the same kind of thing as that monster. Even though for those of you who have had some success and have manifested some things, just think about how much clearer you could get if you were to get Morgana's book. I'm going to get it, and I'm going to sign up for the secret sauce that you have. I really encourage you all to follow her on all her social media and definitely get the book. Morgana, you're going to say something?
Yes, and I have just one request,
Yes.
which is if anything interesting happens, let me know. I love to hear from you, and I've coached thousands of people, but I also have many more thousands of people who never hired me but had really tremendous results. One of my very favorite clients of all time is a woman who bought my book and had her first $250,000 sales month before she ever hired me.
Wow.
So I do this work and I do like these interviews like we're doing right now because I want to get the word out there and I want especially women to be empowered in every area of your life, just like you do, Linus. And so, yeah, let me know if anything happens because that gives me joy.
Oh, I love that, Morgana. Thank you so much for sharing bits of your story and sharing bits of you and your wonderful knowledge. It's been wonderful having you here on the V.I.B.E Living Podcast today.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And thank you to all of you who have chosen to listen to this podcast. I know there are literally probably 50 million podcasts out there, and there's so many that you can choose from. So I am so glad that you've chosen to spend some time with us. And please take the time to comment on the podcast. What did you like about it? What would you like to know more about? And also like and share this podcast and make sure you subscribe as well. I really do believe that at this stage of life, there's no reason why we can't be more vibrant, more intuitive, more beautiful, and more empowered along our journey to wellness and embracing life totally and completely. So have a fantastic rest of the day and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the V.I.B.E Living Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this podcast. Have a fantastic day, and don't forget to vibe. Bye-bye, everybody.